Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar, Protecting Your Network from DDoS Attacks in collaboration between Capacity Media and NTT DATA's global IP network. My name is Saf Malik. I'm a senior reporter at Capacity Media. I'll be hosting this webinar, and I'd like to introduce Darren Grabowski, Manager, Network Security Team, Global IP Network Division of NTT DATA, and Kevin Richardson, Manager for Sales and Engineering at NTT DATA. Darren, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for joining, everybody. Get pretty excited today to talk to you about my favorite topic of DDoS, all the way here from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm in town for SplunConf, but always have a little bit of time to talk to everybody. So let's just jump right in. And of course, Kevin, you can hop in if you have any insight as well. So I just really want to kind of set the stage about what we're dealing with, and what we're looking at here is what we call the threatscape. These are some headlines that we pulled from just news stories over the past couple of years. And to me, these are really interesting because they kind of have some companies in here that typically are known, like Cloudflare, for having a really great DDoS protection service, but they also fell victim to DDoS. We see just how much it costs for an average attack to be down. And here at SplunConf, they said that just an average downtime in general globally costs about $440 billion, I believe is what the number was. So any kind of downtime is going to be detrimental to a business. And so, this DDoS is part of these downtimes that they have talked about and they incur. So it's something that we really need to address. And, of course, it's an ongoing problem and it's a changing problem. So let's talk a little bit about some DDoS attack methods. Over the past couple of years, we've seen a shift, and this is some data from NetScout. They have seen a shift in their global look. They have a thing called Atlas, and so they have kind of a better global view of what's happening. They get feeds from a lot of different providers, and we're seeing a change from what we used to call amplification attacks, which are like DNS amplification attacks, NTP, things like that, to more direct path attacks, which means that the botnets are coming back and the traditional reflection attacks are going down. A lot of this is in part because a lot of providers have banded together to trace back spoofed attacks, which these reflection amplification attacks are. And we said, we'll trace them back and we'll have those networks stop the spoofing. And so this is affecting the ability of these attackers to generate these very large attacks. So they move to more direct path attacks. And these direct path attacks look more like TCP attacks, and where they actually will maybe complete the three-way handshake. So a TCP SYN countermeasure may not be as effective as it was in the past. And of course, using botnets, so there's a lot more compromised machines out there and things like that. So, the state of security is shifting back to what it was, I would say, pre-amplification attack time, and back to this direct path attack. And a lot of it has to do with the rise of IoT and more devices on the network, and companies giving out devices, and people don't manage their own devices, and updates and things like that aren't always pushed out. So there's a lot of the reasons for the direct path attacks. But continuing on, looking at our own data with NTT, we haven't seen the shift as much as the rest of the internet has. We just over the past year in 2023, we only had that kind of shift to direct path attacks a couple times. But what's interesting is how the line is starting to trend a little bit closer together each time. And then if we jump into this year's data, we see that line is actually kind of starting to become, really close together. It's running in parallel, basically. And I think that we're just on the cusp of seeing that shift full time. But we'll see how it goes for the next, few months. And the other big attack vector that has come out, it's very, very popular because it's very effective, because it's hard to detect, is what we call carpet bombing attacks. So NetScout has seen a huge increase over the past year of carpet bomb attacks. And of course, we've seen from Q1 2023 to 2024, a 474% increase. Now, carpet bomb attack just simply means that the attacker is going to launch an attack vector of any kind. It can be direct path, it can be the reflection attacks. But what they do is that they attack multiple IPs within a prefix. So let's say maybe you have a /20. Well, they're going to start attacking an IP in every one of your IPs inside of that /20 and just move on. To traditional detection methods use what we call host misuse detection. And so that looks at the individual IP address. Well, the individual IP may not get enough traffic to trigger a mitigation, whereas under a carpet bomb attack, with the full volume looking across that entire prefix, then you will see those attacks get generated, or those alerts get generated, and we can mitigate those. So carpet bombs definitely on the rise, definitely a little harder to detect. But the mitigation is pretty simple. We just simply route that entire /20 through our mitigation services, and that's how we'll mitigate those attacks. But that number, though, of the 474% increase, that is huge. That I don't think I've ever seen an attack vector change quite that high in my career, and I've been doing this for 20 years. So it's definitely a problem. The other big attack that we've seen, and again, this is from NetScout's data, is what they call DNS water torture attacks. This is basically meant to take down your DNS server. And what they do is that they'll do a NX domain lookup which is a non-existent domain across a certain domain name. So they do random characters.yourdomain.com, and they just continue to do these lookups. And so your DNS server becomes busy trying to figure out if that exists and then answering it. These are a little bit harder to detect across the network. It does require deep packet inspection. So this is something that users typically need to do on their end. We can mitigate these attacks once we're aware of them. And detecting them can be difficult, though, like I said, because it looks like regular DNS traffic to anybody who doesn't have the packet or the payload. But these are definitely on the rise, and something else that, people, if you run a DNS server, this is something that you need to keep an eye out. Remediation and stuff, there's some things you can do on your DNS server itself, depending what you run, bind or a Windows server or whatever it might be. But you can, there's some things you can do on there. And there's also inline solutions to defeat these attacks. But again, definitely, another attack vector we got to keep an eye on. So switching back to some NTT data, I thought this was really interesting because this looks at our auto versus our manual mitigations within our own data set. As you can see, only 1.7% of our mitigations are done manually, which means my team only starts those mitigations for our customers 1.7% of the time. So it really shows how much auto mitigation is important. And that comes in when you look at the duration. So in this bottom graph, see that 51% of the attacks that we see last less than 5 minutes, where 24% are 5 to 15 minutes. So when you look at 75% of the attacks that we see happen less than 15 minutes, and then if you look at the 30-minute mark, jumps it up even higher. So the vast majority of the attacks really need to be done through auto mitigation. We have to really begin to trust the data sets that we have, so we can set thresholds, so we can start these mitigations automatically, simply because a human's not going to respond that fast. In our testing, it takes about 30 seconds from an attack, the time that we detect the attack, to start the mitigation. And so I don't know of any human that can be that fast unless they're just constantly staring at a screen and hitting buttons, which is definitely not me. So, but again, if you have auto mitigation as an option, please turn it on. A lot of our customers don't do this, and this really shows the need for it. So we kind of talked about our problem, what is happening out here when we call the threatscape. Let's talk about some mitigation strategies. For a long time, there's been a tool called the remote trigger black hole. It's essentially going to drop all the traffic on a network. It's done via BGP. It's quick to set up. You can do it when you sign up with your provider. It's something that we just do automatically at NTT. It does require advanced setup. So if you're under an attack and you want to do it, we can do it for you. But it's always good just to have it set up. But it's bad because it does drop all the traffic. So if you have traffic going to a server that is critical, you obviously can't use the black hole. But if it's not a critical server, then it's great. Just go ahead and black hole that traffic. NTT Data, we do have what we call selective black hole. And so we can reduce that impact just in a geographic region. So let's say you're a customer in the United Kingdom and you have a website and you don't sell outside of the United Kingdom, then you can just ignore all the traffic outside of the United Kingdom and just look at traffic internal. Obviously, there's probably going to be some customers that, maybe want to buy something from you to send to a friend. Like maybe I wanted to buy Kevin a nice gift, and I went to that website and they said, sorry, you're in the US. Obviously, I couldn't do it. So there are some disadvantages, but it's always a risk, right? So one of the next tools for a good mitigation strategy, and again, these are like layered approaches for this. So when you think about these things, think about them as layers. It's kind of like an onion. There's a lot of depth here. You got to keep peeling to get to the center. And mitigation strategies are really the same way. It's a layered approach. It's not a one size fits all for everything. You kind of got to take a little bit of everything. And so ACLs are a good way. Access control list on a Cisco router, call them filters on Junipers and Nokias. They're great because they have the ability to block some of the traffic from specific destinations and source IP addresses. You can get it down to the protocol level, the port level. And of course, again, it requires advanced setup. So if you never want to see, SSDP traffic inside your network, you can just drop that at the edge on your provider's edge and never see it. Again, though, it's an all or nothing thing. So you can't do it for DNS, for instance, or NTP if you rely on an external NTP server. So it does take some thought crafting these prior to deploying them, but they are effective. So a lot of, even on my own home network, I actually deploy filters, starting with what do I want to allow and then what I want to deny. And then, of course, my kids get mad if they can't play an online game with their friends, and I have to do the network, operator thing and punch a hole in the firewall for them. But it's still very effective, and it's a great way to again, drop that traffic that you just don't ever need to see. The next layer is really what we call intelligent mitigation. It's scrubbing. It's, using a service like NTT's DDoS protection service. We redirect traffic to scrubbing devices where it cleans that attack traffic and sends on the good traffic. It does, again, it's requires to be set up ahead of time with your provider. You can be auto mitigation is a thing with those. Highly recommend that. Again, of course, manual mitigations are an option as well. That's nice because you can preemptively mitigate. If you have a big event coming up and you subscribe to a service, like let's say you're an NTT customer and you subscribe to our service, we can start a mitigation ahead of your event and have it running. So when the event does happen and an attack does occur, it's already running. And so those countermeasures will be ready to fire off, and we don't have to wait for the detection and all that stuff. It may not be suitable for encrypted traffic. One of the downsides to really off-provider mitigation or off-premise mitigation is the fact that we cannot see the payload if it's encrypted traffic. It requires us to get your keys. I don't know about you, but I don't want to give out my encryption keys to anybody. So there's some downsides to it, but again, it's going to be able to block the vast majority of it. And as long as you don't have to really get down to the payload, then you're going to be fine with it. And really, this is the best way to keep your your network up and running while you're under attack. And it's great. It's like when I talked about the DNS water torture earlier. Using this mitigation method, we can scrub out that DNS water torture traffic and let that good traffic go through. And this is really what you need for things like DNS attacks, because we can get down to that packet level because it's unencrypted traffic. We can see what the payload is. We can scrub out an actual individual domain name from that. So definitely intelligent mitigation should be in your tool set for defeating DDoS. And deploying the toolkit. Again, it's a layered thing. Combine all these tools for it. We talked about, how you can use the selective black holing to reach just geographical, places. Keep it out of certain regions, certain countries. Use ACLs to reduce that attack surface. Filter the traffic from the internet that's irrelevant to your applications. Look at common attack vectors that you don't need. There's so much traffic that crosses the internet that just should not be on there, primarily just due to misconfigurations. And so it's nice to have a way to just filter that traffic out, whatever, and honestly, it could save you a little bit of money too, right? You're paying for internet traffic. It's all metered. But always make sure that you're allowing things, allow your DNS, allow NTP. Again, ACLs take a lot of time to think about your own network traffic. We can make recommendations as a provider, but we don't know your traffic. We don't know what you really need open. And so definitely, take time to look at that holistically. And then that other layer of just using a mitigation service like our DDoS protection service, it's going to allow, to have that intelligent mitigation to get down to that granular level to really scrub out that bad traffic and keep the good traffic going. Because the ultimate goal here is to keep all of your services up and running. And that's our goal at NTT is my team's motto is do no harm. We do not want to affect your traffic. We want to make sure that you're still able to run your e-commerce sites, have your streaming events happen, whatever is going on. We want to partner with you to make sure that that's the best thing that keep it up and running, keep it going. And then the other part that I think doesn't get a lot of attention is your team. At NTT, I've got a great team that works for me, a great set of guys that I've worked with for a long time, actually. We have a very long tenure doing this. And you really should have a team, too, that you've developed. Develop your team and then put things together so that they know. If we look at DDoS all the time, so it's second nature to us. But if you only get attacked maybe once a year, twice a year, you're not really going to know what to do. So have checklists and playbooks put together. We read a book that was written by an airline pilot that just talks about how everything they do as an airline pilot, they go through and they read the checklist, even though they do it day after day. And it's, again, it's like for them driving a car, they still go through those checklists because they want to make sure that they get everything done properly. So that's, really what you should do too, because especially if you're not flying a plane all the time, you would need those checklists. And so have your checklists and your playbooks, make sure they're accessible, have key phone numbers, URLs, email addresses, things like that for your providers that you go to for help. If you self-host email, have something off your network that you can use just in case. If you self-provide internet access, make sure you have out-of-band management to your devices. Secondary internet connectivity for key team members as well. If everybody's in the same office, and let's say that office is under attack, you need a second route to be able to get out and ask for help. And then just train and test your team regularly. If you're an NTT customer, we will play war games with you. You can actually reach out to me, set up a time when you want to test your team, and we can do this. And I've done this with a few of our customers in the past. And it doesn't have to be anything big and formal and set up ahead of time. It can be just a simple fact of you generate your own traffic. You tell me what it is, and as they talk, your team members talk to us through it. We let you know on the back end, hey, they want us to filter this, and then you stop that traffic and things like that. But it's just a good training thing to go through and help out your team just to be the best that they can. I love the last line here, because it's not that much fun resetting expired passwords under duress. I could definitely attest to this. When I had something my own get compromised and having to run in and change passwords and things like that, it's just not fun, especially when you try to start to think about everything that you need to change. So test it, plan it, test it, run through it, play war games, and all those good things. So I'm going to hand over to Kevin. He's going to talk about the solution to the problem, and specifically from the NTT perspective.
Cool, thanks, Darren. And I'm not coming from anywhere nearly as lovely as Las Vegas with Darren. I'm coming from just in London, so thank you. As Darren says, one of the solutions could be NTT global IP networks. We have a wide range of tools and services that are available and can be deployed as part of a multi-layer defense or security solution. They range from black hole capabilities and access control lists all the way through to globally distributed intelligent DDoS mitigation platforms. So starting off with black hole and selected black hole services. The black hole service is available to all of our customers once they take our services and are all set up and running. The black hole is a global black hole service. It's a real-time service. It drops all the traffic though, so it's not a very sophisticated service. It will drop, as Darren mentions, all the good traffic along with all of the bad traffic, unfortunately. But it does give you breathing space to be able to take a step back, look at what's going on, and try and form and craft a plan of response or an action plan to get through these dark times. That's why we then created our own selective black hole service. So this is a service where you can be a bit more fine-tuning with the traffic that you want to drop. So you can select to drop the traffic from either within the country or region that you're making your announcement from, or outside of the country or region that your announcement is coming from. And which one of those you would choose is basically determined on where your interested traffic comes from. So Darren's web server, because he wants to buy me a nice gift. So thank you, Darren. If your service is in London and you're predominantly getting traffic from within the UK, you could look to drop any traffic outside of the UK or outside of Europe. Conversely, if your service is targeting Japan, you could drop traffic from within the UK if that's where your predominant traffic, your attack traffic is coming from. So it can be really flexible. And unlike the normal black holing service, this one gives you the chance to keep your service up and running, keep your production service running, and keep passing some traffic. It will drop some clean traffic outside of the regions that you're blocking, but it does give you that chance to actually keep alive, keep running, and take the pressure off of all your other services as you're trying to mitigate this attack that's going on and affecting you. As it says at the bottom, these are available to all of our IP transit customers after your initial setup, and there's no additional cost for this over and above your transit fees. Then we move on to the services that can complement our black hole services. So this is a selection of sophisticated products that that range from simple ACL control lists to fully automated mitigation services where we do the detection. So starting off with DPS control, this is the access control list that Darren talked about. It's filtering at your edge. It's dropping the traffic that you don't want to see. So if you're not running particular services, if you're not running a DNS server or something like that, put that in an access control list at the edge of the network. Stop that traffic getting through to you in the first place. There's no better way to stop a DDoS attack than just not allowing it through to start off with. Moving on to DPS Core, Detect, Max, and our service provider offering, DPS SP. All of these services use our intelligent and distributed mitigation platform. As you can see, the permanent ACL is present in all of these services because we believe that that's a very good and important part of a multi-layered protection method. So DPS Core is for those customers who have the ability to be able to do the detection themselves. So they can either monitor net flow traffic or monitor the traffic that's crossing their network and identify which traffic is good and which traffic is bad. Or it could be as simple as they're seeing their link is getting saturated. But it gives the customers the control of starting and stopping the mitigation when they want to, or even choosing to try and ride out the storm if they don't want to start that mitigation. It gives them that freedom and that flexibility. Then we move up to DPS Detect. So that's where NTT steps in and we start doing the analytics for you. We start doing the attack detection, and then we send alerts out based on predefined thresholds that we agree with our customers, and they will vary from customer to customer depending on what they're using the network for and what their platform is running. So based on those thresholds, we will detect whether an attack is coming or whether an attack is underway. We will alert the customer. But as with DPS Core, the customer has the control over deciding whether to start a mitigation and when to start that mitigation, or whether to just try and see it out and ride through the storm. DPS Max is our most sophisticated DDoS mitigation service. This is our fully automated service. So along with doing the detection and the alerting, so we will still send you alerts to say whether you're under attack or not, we will auto mitigate as well. So we will start that mitigation when we see the thresholds breached, and we will reroute only the IP addresses that are of interest. So only the attacked IP addresses will be rerouted across to our global platform using Anycast. So we send it everywhere, and we will carry on mitigating until the attack is stopped or goes away. At which point the traffic will return back to its normal flow. So we're trying to limit the amount of extra latency in the network, both through our global offering and both through only rerouting the IP addresses that are actually under attack. And then finally, we've got our DPS service provider. So this is a relatively new offering of ours, and this is where we offer our customers that are additional service providers, whether that be of a hosting type or of a networked connectivity type. We give them the opportunity to potentially get extra revenue streams in by bundling up and reselling our DDoS mitigation capabilities. So it's based on our DPS Max service. So you've got all the automated detection, all the automated mitigation there, and it gives you the ability to go in and do reporting and end user reports as well. Darren, back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. That's a great overview of our services that we have, and really excited about the service provider level. It's the first time we're actually going to get to give our customers an opportunity to generate revenue using the service. That's fantastic. So I want to talk about our DDoS mitigation platform and what we have deployed here at NTT. So we've partnered with NetScout. We actually bought their Arbor gear. NetScout acquired Arbor a few years ago. And so we use the Arbor Sightline for DDoS detection and their TMS HD 1000 appliances for scrubbing. What we've done is we've placed 13 of these scrubbers strategically throughout our network on 4 different continents. And that way the attacks can be mitigated closer to the attack origin. Enrique, I see your question about detection. Is it based on NetFlow level 3, level 4? It is based on 4. So we are looking at protocols and ports. It is a NetFlow based detection, and the thresholds are static as well. But we talk with our customers about this to find out how we want to set those thresholds, so we can get that in the system. You know your traffic better than we do. If you need to make adjustments, we can do that as well. But yeah, so we've put these mitigation platforms, just to jump back to that. 4 in Asia, in Hong Kong, Singapore, Sydney, and Tokyo. 3 in Europe, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, and London. 4 in North America, 5 in North America, Ashburn, New York, Miami, Los Angeles, and San Jose, and 1 in Sao Paulo in South America. And again, these are placed where we expect attack traffic to come in. In the case of like Sydney and Sao Paulo, we have local scrubbing, so we're not going to send that traffic across the subsea cables to be scrubbed in Asia or back in the US and then send it back across. So it's going to give your traffic the native kind of flow to go through to those scrubbers, and it's going to go to that closest scrubbing center, because we do make an announcement from every scrubbing center when we mitigate attacks. Just to talk a little bit more about this. Sorry, I thought there was one more slide on this. What we do is, again, we do an Anycast announcement. So we bring in that traffic to the closest scrubbing center, because we don't want to send it all over the network to be scrubbed to like one big scrubbing center. So it's going to take the natural flow to that scrubbing center, and then it's going to get sent back to you using what we call the clean VRF, and it's going to just go wherever you tell it to via BGP. It learns its routes from your BGP announcements. So it's going to take that natural route back. So you shouldn't see traffic that is scrubbed in, let's say, Amsterdam, go to Los Angeles. If you have a circuit with us in both those locations, traffic scrubbed in Amsterdam should go to your Amsterdam link. Traffic scrubbed in Los Angeles should go to your Los Angeles link. Because again, we don't want to just send your traffic all over the place. There's no GRE tunnels. Everything is done on the network. So you do have to be an NTT customer to take advantage of the service, because we want to send it back to your NTT link. And for me, this is a great advantage because, I, as a network operator and as a network geek, I don't want to send my traffic off to really a third-party network. I would rather see that my traffic stays on net through my provider and never has to leave that and go to some third party that maybe, for kind of black box mitigations. And that's for latency reasons, that's for just privacy and security reasons and things like that. So I think, a solution like ours is really great for those network operators that do want to keep everything on net and keep everything kind of flowing in the same direction with maybe a minor detour. So yeah, I think at this point, I think we are ready to open it up for questions.
Darren and Kevin, thank you so much for the presentation. Very informative and very much enjoyable. We had a question about whether or not the slides would be available. The slides aren't actually going to be available, but you can rewatch this webinar on the Capacity Media website. This is your time to send questions, guys, as Darren noted. In the meantime, I do have a couple of questions, Darren, if you don't mind. The first one would be, do we have to specify like a single point of entry to receive the clean traffic from you guys?
No, absolutely not. Like I said, when we do the announcements, it's an Anycast announcement from any location, from every location. So all 13 scrubbers are making the same announcement. So again, if the traffic comes into Europe, we're going to scrub locally in Europe and then send it back to your Europe links. And same for all the locations, because we want to bring that attack traffic into the closest scrubbing center. We want this to be a low latency product. Obviously, there's going to be introduced a little bit of latency. Some of the countermeasures also introduce latency because of the challenges that it produces for like a TCP send-off countermeasure. But we really want to see that traffic, again, come to the closest center and then get sent out. This is partially also for our own network health. We're not going to send, a whole bunch of DDoS traffic to one location and potentially congest that POP, just to scrub. So it keeps everything running smoothly, keeps the network clean.
And is there a limit of the amount of dirty to clean traffic that we can send you?
No, we have We really don't talk about capacity numbers, but our capacity is essentially as much traffic as a network can handle. There are certain protections that we can put in place. If, let's say, a scrubber is, maybe we do have a scrubber that is getting overloaded, but that the attack traffic that's going through there doesn't all need to have intelligent mitigation. Some of it is just garbage traffic that we can drop, then we can just filter that out and allow that other attack traffic to go through that needs that intelligent mitigation. It goes back to that layered solution. Our DDoS mitigation platform isn't just built on the just intelligent mitigation. It does have that ACL component as well built into it. And again, that's so we can continue to keep using those scrubbers for what they're really designed for, which is that intelligent mitigation.
Yeah, and finally for me, do we need IP transit with you to use your DDoS mitigation service?
Absolutely. We in the past we used GRE tunnels to send clean traffic back. That was very suboptimal. You run into MTU issues. You run into it was a single endpoint GRE tunnel, so there was no fallbacks. And so if maybe you're doing maintenance on where the GRE tunnel landed on your side, then the GRE tunnel goes down, and if there's a mitigation that maybe fires off through auto mitigation, there's no place for the clean traffic to go. So it's essentially been black hole in the network. And so we wanted to eliminate that and really give customers the full control over where the clean traffic can return by using their own BGP announcements. So if you're under attack and you have one location that is maybe taking too much traffic because most of it's coming in through a region, and you want to shut that one down and let it go to the rest of the network, then you can do that. And it's all done by you. You don't have to tell us anything. It's all going to just learn those BGP routes from you and continue routing that traffic as you want it to route, and not as a single point a GRE would want it to route.
Guys, it doesn't seem that we have any more questions at the moment. But is there anything else you guys wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to say, the DDoS is still a very real threat, and there is still a lot of bad actors out there that for various reasons. We've seen attacks just like in those headlines. It's political, it's geopolitical problems. It's just kids being dumb. It's kids that don't want to take a test. We see a big increase in the United States, especially in my home state of Texas, of attacks going against schools when there's testing that is being done, because those kids don't want to take their tests and they think that they can DDoS the school and get away with it. So you get some of that vandalism that occurs. It's can be competitors attack you. We know that this has happened in the past as well, where one competitor attacked another one to bring down their services and their sites just to make them look bad. And so, whatever the reason is behind DDoS, most of the time we have no idea. We can make guesses based on the services. Gaming is a huge attack victim of DDoS attacks because not everybody's good at video games and people get frustrated. And it's cheap too. That's the other thing, is it's really cheap to launch a lot of these attacks. For $5, you can launch 5 to 15-minute DDoS attack against somebody, and that's enough to lag them so they time out of the server that you're maybe playing against them. But it's really a growing problem, and it is a costly problem. Any kind of traffic that does cross your links that you don't want, ultimately in a metered service like the internet is, you end up paying for. And so why not take advantage of mitigation strategies to block this? But also the other flip side is, while you are a victim, you also don't want to attack other people. And I think that's another part that I think a lot of security guys fail to mention, is we have to be good net citizens ourselves. Like at NTT, I talked about earlier how we go back and we look for those spoof traffic. We'll trace those back. It's very easy using NetFlow. So we'll trace back to the spoof source and ask those customers to stop, because ultimately it is an AUP violation on the NTT network to do that. But it's also just being a good net citizen to pay attention what's leaving your network as well as coming in. If you run open DNS servers because you have customers all over the world and they rely on you to resolve DNS, and so you have to have the resolvers open to the world, put protections in place to watch out, monitor that traffic. There's been times in the past where large companies, large movie studios who are also electronic companies that I won't name and shame here, but they lost intellectual property due to attacks and data exfiltration because nobody's watching what was leaving their network. And so, it's not all about what's coming in; it's also about what's leaving. And data exfiltration is a big problem that we see. It's simply because people aren't watching their traffic. So your good security posture is, really to watch everything, what's coming in, what's leaving. And a lot of it is just because we do want to be good net citizens. So if you run a hosting platform, I can't do BCP, what we call BCP 38 practices. I can't do route checks on the middle of the network because of multi-homing. It breaks multi-homing. So strict URPF, things like that can't be turned on because I will break routing. And so we really rely on you at the edge to do that. And again, it's gonna save you money. It's gonna save you resources because really DDoS, whether you're a victim of it or whether you're sourcing it, is still stealing your resources. And it's just, are you just the victim of the theft? I mean, really, you're the victim of the theft either way. But are you, a victim in that you're being attacked and losing, those resources and losing that time and that money, or are you being used to attack somebody else? And so, please look at your traffic going both ways.
Darren, just as you were speaking, we've had another couple of questions come in. The first one is, does your detection detect slow rate attacks or just volumetric attacks?
It can detect slow rate attacks. Again, it really is based on the threshold. If there's enough volume of traffic for that, because we look at bits per second and packets per second, and so if we see enough volume in there, it triggers those the high rate of the thresholds, then it will start a mitigation, and then there is mitigation strategies to block those attacks, those slow, like kind of like this old slow Laris type attacks. We can definitely block those attacks once we know that they're happening, and again, it triggers that mitigation.
There was one more question, but I don't quite understand it. Do you do always on protection?
So I would ask, are you looking for inline protection? Because our service is always on. We are continually detecting and mitigating attacks during the course of the past 37 minutes of this talk. I'm sure we probably had at least 20 plus mitigations get fired off in our system. So we're always protecting. The system's always on. It's always detecting. We're just not always sending traffic through those scrubbers. And there's a few reasons for it. One is, if you think about all the traffic, if we were to send every prefix that you have going through that device all the time, it's going to be applied. The countermeasures are going to be applied to it, and it's going to affect that traffic. There is inline solutions that are available that you can put into your own network that would scrub that traffic, and then you can use it to signal up to a provider for scrubbing if it gets over your thresholds. So that always on question is kind of, I really have to go deeper with that, because a lot of customers mean inline, and a lot of customers mean, is it always detecting and always ready to mitigate?
And then one from Enrique from Telxius. What about carpet bombing attacks?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's different ways to detect carpet bombing attacks. Ultimately, right now we're looking at what we call a profiled router. So we look at all of your traffic coming in, and when it reaches a certain volume, certain percentage above what your normal traffic is, then it will start. It'll send an alert, and we'll start mitigating those attacks, and then the system will add and take away prefixes that it needs. Arbor has released some updated, newer version of their software that we're currently under testing, and so far the testing is going well. That will look at your what we call a managed object of the profile. So all the thresholds that you set for like a host detection, you can do that on a managed object basis, and so it's really effective as well to look at and defeat those carpet bombing attacks.
Yeah. Great, Darren. Thank you so much. That seems like all of the questions, and you went through all of them pretty swiftly there. Thank you much.
I do see a follow-up from Amber here, and he did mean inline. So yeah, right now we don't offer inline. I would like to offer inline. Right now, every model that I put together to look at inline, because I have done a little bit of this work to look at it, it would be very expensive through a provider to do it. Simply because of the cost of the hardware involved. You need a dedicated device in every location that you would be at. So that obviously increases the cost. There's maybe some potential solutions in the future. I need to really talk with our product team about this, as well as our IP dev team. But ultimately, I think an inline solution would be very interesting to look at. From our perspective, I think it would be a great product that we could do, but we have to make sure we can do it the right way with the right equipment. Because again, we don't want to affect your traffic, and if an inline device was to go down for some reason and the pass-through failed on it, it would block all your traffic. And so it's going to take a little bit more for us to look at, but yeah, I would think an inline solution would be very interesting.
Darren and Kevin, thanks so much for sharing your expertise on this topic. Guys, everyone that's watching, please don't hesitate to reach out to NTT DATA for more information. Thank you for everyone for watching this webinar. We hope it's been very useful for you guys. Don't forget to sign up and subscribe to Capacity Media for more webinars and content like this. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.